And when it affects my budget, it affects my family also. I can't afford to buy the food that they need because I got to put it in gas.
The night America never thought it would see began with something deceptively simple: silence. Not the kind that comes from peace, but the kind that comes from empty kitchens, dark grocery aisles, and millions of families refreshing their EBT apps, hoping the numbers would change. Across 10 states, from the glowing streets of New York to the quiet deserts of New Mexico, something began to break. Not in warehouses or supply chains, but in people's lives. Food was still there. Shelves were still stocked, but the system meant to help them wasn't. And as panic spread from crowded food pantry lines to the owners of small grocery stores and bakeries clinging to every sale, one question hung in the air. What happens to a nation when the safety net snaps? Because tonight, the consequences weren't theoretical, they were personal. Mothers skipping meals, workers stretching every dollar, seniors choosing between heat and dinner. A crisis caused not by drought, war, or scarcity, but by paperwork, politics, and a budget caught in limbo. If you want to understand what really unfolded behind the headlines, what people lived through, what states tried to stop, and why this isn't just a policy failure, but a human one, then stay with me. And before we dive into the story they won't tell you on the news, hit the subscribe button. This is a chapter of America you need to see to believe.
Guys, y'all ain't gonna believe this freaking crap. Me and my husband just left the grocery store, walked there with not even 4 bags, and paid over almost $300 and something. Everything has just went up double. Like, what the heck, man? This is getting crazy. We can't even afford groceries anymore. My husband brings home not even $500 a week. And we can't afford this freaking crap. And we went to fill out for freaking food stamps to get help. They denied us. They said he made too much.
It begins in the kind of darkness that doesn't come from a power outage, but from uncertainty. A mother in New York taps her phone for the 5th time in an hour. Refresh, refresh, refresh. The numbers on her EBT app don't move. Outside her window, the city glows like nothing is wrong. But inside her kitchen, the fridge hums over nearly empty shelves. She has rice for tonight, maybe eggs for tomorrow, but after that, nothing. She checks again anyway. People always check again, even when they know nothing will change. Across the city, food pantry lines twist around corners before the sun is even up. These aren't lines of people who forgot to plan or who woke up careless. These are teachers, delivery drivers, home health aides, seniors on fixed incomes. People who budget and count and stretch every dollar until stretching becomes impossible. And today, they aren't there for a choice. They're there because the system that was supposed to protect them failed. New York wasn't alone. Down in Louisiana, a small grocery store owner runs his hand over the nearly full produce section. Bright tomatoes, fresh greens, ripe bananas. Everything looks perfect. Except no one is buying. His regulars, the ones he sees every week, walk in with calculators in their hands, scanning prices like they're decoding a puzzle. Some and put items back. Others leave with a single bag instead of 3. He tries to smile, tries to reassure them that it'll pass, but he can already feel the impact. SNAP payments didn't hit, and his business is bleeding from a wound he never saw coming. Out in New Mexico, the desert wind pushes dust across quiet roads. In towns where the nearest grocery store is miles away, families gather around kitchen tables to figure out how to make food last. A grandmother folds her hands and that she's been through worse. Her daughter shakes her head. This time feels different. Because this time there is food in stores, just not in reach. Not without those benefits that everyone assumed would always come through. In Vermont, a father apologizes to his daughter for the second night in a row as he slides a smaller portion onto her plate. He tells her it's because he isn't very hungry, but she's old enough to know the truth. Parents always say they're not hungry when they're worried. And he's worried about the week, about the month, about the bills that don't wait for Washington to make up its mind. In Oregon, a single mom sits in her car outside a food bank she never thought she'd visit. Rain taps softly against the windshield as she rehearses what she'll say. She practices smiling, telling herself she won't cry. Inside, volunteers move quickly, trying to help more people than they ever prepared for. Nobody judges, nobody asks. They all know why she's here. They're seeing hundreds just like her every day.
How come no one's freaking out harder about how high grocery prices are right now? In 2020, my grocery bill was $100 to $150 a month. Now, it's $300 to $350 a month. And now, I don't even buy meat. I can't afford it. I dumped Publix. I only go to Target because it's the cheapest option near me. I almost never buy the name brand stuff. This is beyond inflation at this point. This is just a full-on scam. Last week, I went and got salt, shaving cream, and a salad kit. Altogether, these 3 tiny things cost $10.31. A box of salt was $4. Like what? I could rub it on my skin and live forever? It's salt.
In Virginia, a worker at a diner stares at his paycheck. Tips are down because customers aren't ordering like they used to. Breakfast rush feels more like a slow afternoon. People come in for coffee instead of meals, asking for small plates instead of their usual orders. The struggle is spreading. SNAP benefits don't just feed families, they keep small towns alive. And when they stop, everything slows with them. In Rhode Island, a legal battle brews because the state's emergency funds are nowhere near enough to cover every family who suddenly needs help. Lines fill outside state offices and parents clutch documents as if paperwork could magically turn back on the benefits that vanished overnight. In Texas, a grocery store security guard watches as customers walk through aisles with empty carts, staring at prices like they're in a museum, not a store. He sees the same expression again and again, the silent calculation of what must be skipped, what can be delayed, what can wait until benefits return. People stand in front of meat counters for minutes, staring, deciding, walking away. In Florida, where tourism makes everything look shiny from the outside, food banks signal red alerts. Demand spikes overnight. Families who spent years trying to climb out of poverty suddenly find themselves falling again because of something they didn't cause and couldn't control. Workers in beach towns finish long shifts only to go home and figure out how to stretch food until next week. Some skip meals so their kids don't have to. Some water down soup. Some pretend it's a diet. Across all 10 states, the pattern repeats. The fridge that gets quieter with each passing day, the grocery lists that shrink, the children who notice more than adults want them to. It's not a disaster caused by storms or fires or failing farms. Food is there, supplies are stable, trucks are delivering, stores are open. The crisis isn't in the fields or factories. The crisis is in a system that paused at the exact moment people needed it most. And so, millions wait, some patiently, some desperately, all of them hoping for the same thing, that tomorrow, when they refresh their phones, the numbers will finally change, that the silence will finally break, that help will finally come. This is the reality behind the headlines, the one lived in kitchens, in grocery aisles, in cars parked outside food banks. A crisis not born out of scarcity, but out of decisions made far from the people who feel them. A crisis that reminds us that hunger doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like the quiet click of an app, showing nothing.
Okay, I just got done with Walmart. If you saw my video just a little bit ago about how much I spent for just 29 items, I had to use my credit card because I couldn't afford it. I'm a single mom. Come on, people. Trump, everybody, lower the grocery bills. We gotta eat. We gotta feed our kids. Come on, really take this seriously. Trump, the administration, anybody listening, please lower the grocery bills. We can hardly afford this stuff anymore. Thank you and bye. This is my rant for the day of Saturday. Bye.
And if there's one thing this crisis makes painfully clear, it's that hunger in America isn't about empty farms or broken supply chains. It's about choices. Choices made in rooms far away from the people who pay the price. Families shouldn't have to refresh an app to know if they'll eat tonight. Grocery stores shouldn't fear losing customers because the system froze. Parents shouldn't have to pretend they're not hungry so their kids can have one more meal. Yet here we are, in a country overflowing with food, watching people struggle to reach it. Maybe that's the real story. Not just the chaos, not just the frustration, but the quiet truth that when essential systems fail, the burden never falls on those who caused it. It falls on those who can least afford it. And if this moment taught us anything, it's that stability isn't guaranteed. Not even for something as basic as the food on our tables. If you want to stay with me as we dig deeper into the stories that shape real people's lives, the ones behind the headlines, the ones most media never show, hit that subscribe button before you go. There's a lot more we need to talk about.